All right, guys, welcome to the second League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen. I'm your host, Cyrus. With me, as always, is Leon. And tonight, our special guest is our friend Jason, a local filmmaker and just an all-around decent type of fellow. Hey, Jason.
Howdy.
Well, besides being a local filmmaker, he's apparently somebody who's often asked to guest star on other podcasts.
Yeah, so we find out now. It's like, I feel like sloppy seconds over here.
No, I'm like
fourths.
I'm like the Fonzie of podcasts. I just kind of show up, everyone applauds. They're like, oh, it's like when Fonzie showed up on what was it? Laverne and Shirley.
Much like Fonzie, you just jumped the shark.
I did. Thanks.
Yeah, why don't you hit a jukebox on your way out, turn it on.
All right, so I want to do kind of like they did in the old Daily Show days, the 5 questions for our guest every week to start things off.
Oh, that's a good way to start this.
Exactly.
All right.
First question for you, Jason. What is your all-time favorite movie and a brief why?
All-time favorite movie, well, being a young 30-something-year-old male, it's Empire Strikes Back. Of course, I'm kind of obligated to say
Really,
that.
dude? Because that's the one that George Lucas doesn't like.
Really? Well, that should tell you something, shouldn't it? That just kills me every time I hear that. No, I like it, and not particularly because it's dark, but I think it's got some good lines. It really fleshes out the relationship. There are a lot of great action sequences.
It doesn't bother you that there's so much of it that totally betrays the first Star Wars movie?
How so?
Well, clearly in the first movie, Luke and Leia aren't sisters.
Oh, yeah.
Or brother and sister.
Oh, yeah. Lucas claims to have that all planned out, but there's no way.
But,
there's no way. If he did, he's a creep.
I think it's better now. It's hot now when you watch Star Wars. It's like, ooh, kinky.
You're grossing me out.
Well, I guess maybe that doesn't get revealed to the third. No, it's in the second one it gets revealed, but it's just funny how in the first half of Empire Strikes Back, he's just like jonesing to get in Leah's pants.
Oh, they've got
he's
the kiss?
Yeah, he's pissed off at Han. He's all jealous and shit. Well, I guess Tatooine is like space Kentucky.
Space West Virginia.
Yeah.
And that's West Virginia.
You sure got a pretty droid.
All right. Which actress at any point in time would you nail if you could?
Wow.
You've been given a time machine.
Yeah.
Now somebody's already gone back and killed Hitler and freed the slaves and made sure Lincoln didn't get killed.
And killed George Lucas in like 1991, right?
Sure.
Okay.
So now you got the time machine and you can nail any actress in any period in time.
That's good. That's a good one. I'm going to go with, and this will change by the next time you ask me, but I'm going to go with Ursula Andress from Dr. No.
Oh,
Nice
okay.
answer.
Okay, good answer. I was thinking you were going to go with Raquel Welch from 10,000 BC, but
That's a good one.
Too.
Yeah.
It's a very
I'm
good one.
strange. I like weird, quirky, funny woman, and I always say Shirley MacLaine in The Apartment.
dude,
Yeah.
I was so going to say Shirley
Really?
MacLaine, not The Apartment, but like How to Marry a Millionaire.
Okay, well, that same era.
Right. She was so unbelievably hot in that
my
time.
God.
And like you don't think of her that way, but like you see those movies and it's
I'm gonna-
you have to like put it on pause for a little bit.
I'm going to change my answer to Shirley MacLaine and Steel Magnolias.
Oh, okay.
Weezer. There's a reason they call her Weezer.
There's a mom fixation happening here.
Ooh, okay.
So you
Moving on.
Your dad's still okay, right?
Yeah, no, he's fine. He's
Next.
fine. I did stab my eyes out with a brooch.
What license would you most like to see get adapted into a film?
Oh, one that's already about to happen, actually. Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim.
Who's that?
Scott Pilgrim, a little indie comic by a guy named Brian Lee O'Malley. Edgar Wright's actually doing it. It is a slacker Canadian guy in a band called Sex Bob-omb. It's a little black and white collected. They're releasing graphic novels, and there's 4 of them, and it's.
Man, get Dennis Miller over here with the obscure reference.
It's a very good, very funny comic about a video game obsessed loser in Canada trying to get his act together, and there's all sorts of weird, quirky things. He has to fight his new girlfriend's 7 evil ex-boyfriends.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Cyrus,
yeah.
it sounds like they just ripped off your life.
I know, right? I was going to say, he just needs to learn some animation and start a website.
It's good stuff. It's really good. But Edgar Wright, it's on his plate, and he's supposed to adapt it. I think that's perfect.
Hey, that better come after Ant-Man.
I think it is,
Okay.
actually.
Because I'm excited about Ant-Man.
Now, is
Me
this-
too.
Ant-Man, just tangent here. Is this the one he's doing? Is this Hank Pym
Ah,
Ant-Man
see,
or
or Scott Lang?
Scott Lang?
Oh,
Possibly both of them.
Okay.
The last thing I read was that he was looking at maybe putting both of them in.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yes.
So
That's
I mean,
kinda cool.
I keep hearing this new comic, the Irredeemable Ant-Man.
Right. I haven't read that, so I don't know which
See, well,
Ant-Man
that's-
that is.
I don't even think that's either one of them.
That's
I
what I
think
was
that's some
thinking,
new
too.
guy, and he's a total douchebag.
Yeah, they need to knock it off with the new guys.
It's a humor comic, apparently.
Yes.
But it's
He's a
been
total
getting great
self-serving
reviews.
ass.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right, because they killed Scott Lang.
Yeah.
They could get Corey to play that.
As long as they have a Bill Foster cameo, I'm all right with it.
Okay, what comic book are you most embarrassed to have totally loved when you were a kid?
Oh, you know I have an answer to this one. I've just got to totally loved when I was a kid.
I'll start it off here just to help you
Yeah,
out. Mine
yeah.
is Power Pack.
I knew you were going to say Power Pack.
I, you know, even when I read them now, I'm like, oh, I cringe reading them. I still get those little twinges of, oh yeah, that was cool. Wait, what am I saying? This is so stupid.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I actually had a pretty big love for the Star Wars Marvel stuff, which was pretty damn bad.
Was it? Because I seem like to remember that being like, well remembered.
Some of it was good. But they weren't allowed to touch a lot of the stuff. Lucas was like, all right, this, and this was off limits. So they had the ability to take Lando Calrissian and have him go to some planet no one's ever heard of in the Star Wars mythology,
Right.
So there was some bad stuff in there.
Well,
and
Lucas was clearly not paying attention for a while with some of the third-party stuff, because have you ever read Splinter of the Mind's Eye? Where Luke and Leia
Where, like,
have
Luke-
sex?
Yeah.
and Han gets that gem that turns him into a Jedi or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
Is that right?
Yeah, I read it when I was like in junior high.
I mean, I'm like going from the most distant, vague memories of it. If I remember reading it and going, okay, and then Empire was even more shocking to me because I'm like, well, wait, because I loved Splinter when it came out.
I remember Splinter being a huge book.
It was a big hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alan Dean Foster.
Right.
Yeah.
Who is the captain of the good ship, cheap novelizations.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. The go-to guy for novelization.
All right, last question. You are a filmmaker, as we previously discussed, and let's say you were like, I mean, you're Spielberg, you're whoever. You can get any project you want and to do yourself. What project would you do yourself? What would you love to adapt personally?
Oh, wow. My nerdiness is showing. A D&D
That's what
movie
we're here
without Marlon Wayans, you know?
A D&D movies?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I would only be interested if it was based on the D&D cartoon.
See, that's actually one that I would love to do, is like a flash forward to, some of the kids escaped the realm, some decided not to leave, and they're all adults now. And,
Yeah.
Something kind of...
Oh, wait, they already made that movie. It was Chronicles of Narnia. Never mind.
Oh, there's a new piece of news that came out from
Oh.
New York Comic Con.
Oh, go for
it. Joe Quesada, who's the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics right now.
Oh,
Mephisto?
Captain Fuckhead?
Yeah, Captain Fuck.
Oh, we haven't talked about that yet, Leon.
We
did
talked about it
last
last week.
Yeah, you and I haven't talked about
That's
it.
true.
so-
But everybody hates this guy because he rewrote the Spider-Man. He made it where he was never married to Mary Jane, and all this stuff changed, and it's totally retarded. A lot of people feel like it's a betrayal.
Oh, it's a total betrayal.
Yeah, since I can't remember when it was that originally he got married, like 83 or 82.
Yeah, it was like it was between like 83 and 86, somewhere around in there. So he has been married for as long as or longer than he was single.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So it's a key factor of the character
Yes.
at this point. Well, Quesada decided, despite the protests of pretty much everyone at Marvel and all the fans, that, well, I want to end this because Spider-Man's more interested as a single person.
Not.
No.
Not exactly.
Not at all.
He's wrong. He's more interesting because how many heroes even have to deal with this? He's different because of this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, Quesada, when it happened, there was a list of things in an issue that said, this is what's changed, including stuff like there's no more Venom. Things like that. Like, it never happened. Like, all this other stuff
He
has
said
changed. Oh, it's actually printed.
Yes,
It's actually
printed.
printed in an issue. Well, he now at New York Comic Con was asked about this, and he responded, no. The only thing that changed was the marriage never happened. Other than that, everything is exactly the same. Which is like, dude, we know you like to rewrite history.
Sure.
But you actually printed this in the comic, and we can go find it and go, no, dude, you said very specifically right here.
I was not aware of that. I want to fight him right now. I want to challenge him to Jim Cotta.
It's like, screw
to a
you,
duel.
Dewey Bowl.
Yeah.
But
I want to see him ripped apart by ravenous hobos.
The thing is, the guy is really not steering the ship right now.
No.
Who is?
I don't know, but clearly not him. I mean, he had such a strong hand in the direction Marvel went. I mean, they were gone off the rails, and he really came in and saved the company, pulled it back up, made all the comics good, put Brian Michael Bendis in charge of most of the comics, Michael J. Straczynski in charge of the rest of them, got everything like, wow, this is better than they've ever been. And now suddenly he's had this brain fart, and it's totally just running off the rails.
Rule number 1, Peter Parker would never make a deal with the devil. Rule number 2, Peter Parker would never make a deal with the devil.
And now he's saying something like, oh, did you notice that there's a period of time between, like, when Mary Jane kisses him and when he wakes up, there's a lapse in time. I wonder what happened during that lapse. I'm like, I don't, because I'm not reading that fucking comic book anymore.
Yeah,
Joe
I don't read
Quesada
anymore.
is Mephisto. That's
I mean, if I could think in for one thing, it's like, well, hey, that's less money I have to spend every month. People have, like, taken me to task over liking Spider-Man 3. I don't simply like Spider-Man 3. I love it. And a part of what makes me like Spider-Man 3 is that I really don't like Spider-Man 2. I mean, I love Spider-Man 1, and I came out of Spider-Man 2 kind of angry. I'm like, wow.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I was like, man, you guys just really just dropped the ball on everything I liked about
There was a lot I didn't like about 2, but overall I really liked it.
Honestly, 2 is my favorite of the 3.
It's most people's favorite, I think.
I don't understand that.
But the only reason why it's better than 1 for me is that I hate the Green Goblin armor. Hate it.
Oh, God. It's
so
like
bad. I think
it's like a
looks
Power Ranger
retarded.
villain.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It takes me right out of it every time he's in the armor.
Yeah.
Doesn't take me out of it. Dr. Octopus didn't buy him for 1 second. It's like
really?
rather than making him this creepy Eastern European scientist, which is good enough on its own, it was the decision was made to like, hey, let's make him like a Batman villain where he has to have some kind of tragic start.
Him.
And I'm like, okay, he lost his wife, but
well, that wasn't actually in the original script.
I can believe that.
He did
Please
not have a wife.
Explain that to me.
In fact,
he was hooked on Mary Jane.
He was hooked on Mary Jane. He
Well,
kept asking her out.
Okay.
In fact, he's dating her at one point.
Whoa.
If you remember, at the beginning, Mary Jane's actually dating the son of J. Jonah Jameson.
Right, John
in
Jameson.
The comics
Right.
ended up becoming Man-Wolf.
Man
or
Wolf.
whatever,
Right.
which, of course, they don't deal with at
Alfred
all in the
Molina's
movie.
a pimp, though.
Yeah.
Now, see, that would be cool. I mean, like, you're the girl you love is dating some older creepy guy. Like, how
If
do you
anyone's
mess with
dating
that?
Dr. Octopus, it's Aunt May. Come on.
True, but
Yeah.
but that would have been the kind of thing I'm like, whoa, this is something I got to get used to. All right,
David
it's
Lynch's
dangerous now.
Spider-Man 2.
Well, they wouldn't have cast Alfred Molina if they had gone to the script. I think. There's no way they would have. Come on, really?
So
Alfred
maybe
Molina
they would have made like Tom Welling, Dr.
They would have given it
Octopus or
to
something.
one of the guys from the OC or something.
That would have been awful.
Would have been Adrian
Intolerable.
Brody. As
Justin Long would have been. Didn't you see that?
I got you now, Spider-Man. Want to buy a Mac?
I know I was about to say. But anyway, let's talk about the Spider-Man 3 thing here because that's what you wanted to get to.
Well, I don't want. You know what? I don't want to get to it, but it won't die. So I'm here to talk about it. If you don't like it, I understand. It's not a perfect movie. It certainly has its flaws. I just don't get the people who hate it, and I don't get the people who hate it and say Spider-Man 2 was the best. Because I've watched Spider-Man 2 a lot, and I've warmed up to it only because I thought it had better special effects and some cool action sequences, and that's about it. Everything else I watch in it just does not resonate to me. It's not Spider-Man. It's just kind of made up and put on. But when I get to 3, and not only does it have better effects, it's got way more action sequences, and it deals with things that are more Spider-Man-like. Now, I will say that it's kind of a kid's movie, but to me, the second one set a precedent. Like, it changed where the first one went, where it was more of a kid's kind of superhero movie. So by the time the third one came along, I'm like, okay, it's already with this sensibility, so I'm going with it.
What did you like about Spider-Man 3? I mean, I'll say, get out of the way, say I liked it too. Well, what did you like, or what did you love about it?
Let me say this, because it's often brought up how Sam Raimi didn't want to put Venom in the movie. I mean, it's clearly like, it's almost like it's 2 movies put together. There was a Sandman movie.
Too much.
And I don't agree with the too much. I don't get that too much.
I don't agree with the too much.
Because
either.
too often I watch movies and they're anemic. There's like not enough going on. Yeah. Now for me, one of the things I loved about Spider-Man 3, there was so much going on. I was constantly getting more and more. And as far as Venom goes, I hate Venom. I've never liked Venom except
and
yeah. I'm with Raimi. Except the one thing I can say about Venom is I like when he first came on.
Yeah.
I love Venom's origin. I love how he started with the black suit, and the black suit took on its own life with a guy who hated him.
They made him into a Punisher. They tried to make him into a Punisher.
Yeah. What they did with Venom after the first story, but Venom was the only. See, the thing about Spider-Man is Spider-Man's got a great rogues gallery, but he's really only got 2 A-list villains, and that's Dr. Octopus and the Green Goblin.
The rest of them are kind of clowns.
Everybody else are B-list. I mean, he beats their asses with not much trouble. Those are only 2 guys who gave him problems and even got into his personal life.
What about the Spot?
The what?
Who?
The Spot?
Jason, come on, give me a break.
Ringmaster?
I mean, those guys like the Rocket Racer.
Let's talk about the Rocket Racer. What about the Prowler?
I always rooted for Mephisto. I always wanted him to do better. I'm like, that's cool stuff you got going on there. You're a cool villain. It's too bad you're completely incompetent.
What about Big Wheel?
The only
You're overlooking Big Wheel.
The only Spider-Man villain who was in between an A-list and B-list is Venom. Now, you don't start out having, okay, I'm going to fight an A-list villain in the first movie and an A-list villain in the second movie. In the third movie, I'm going to drop down to B-list. You can't do that. Things have to escalate.
Should have been Sinister Six.
Yeah, it was either go Sinister Six or Venom. I mean, Venom was the natural choice. Yeah. As much as Sam Raimi didn't want to do Venom, it's like, dude, I'm sorry, but yeah, you kind of had to. You were in that corner.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that.
And what I also see, and you know what this could have been, it could have been two separate movies, and maybe 2 really good movies that we would have had to wait 8 years for. I'm fine not having to wait that long and getting both of them sandwiched together in one movie.
Of course, in my dream universe, there was, between Spider-Man 2 and 3, there was the Secret Wars movie.
Sure.
Where Spider-Man got the symbiote in the first place.
He whips X-Men ass when he gets his new costume.
Yeah, every hero in the Marvel Universe is in it. Yeah, that was my dream. I still have that dream.
I realize the thing that's going to come up over and over is people going like, well, I just hated the whole dance sequence and how when he became bad, he turned into an emo kid. Maybe you people never read Spider-Man or you don't get this from the movies. Peter Parker is the ultimate good guy. The most evil he could become is an emo kid. Or for him, even for me, I gotta say, like the idea of just sticking it to my ex-girlfriend by showing her up at her place of business in front of everybody, whether by dancing or whatever, that would be it. That would be the ultimate. Any more than that would not have been true to the character. And totally all of you love that sequence in Spider-Man 2 with raindrops keep falling on my head. Well, him dancing down the street like James Brown, it was just a parallel of that.
It was so Raimi, first off.
Yeah.
It was right, it was like, really? Y'all didn't see this as being like the other stuff you love that Raimi has done? And it was comedy.
It was
fucking comedy. Why does no one see that?
People took that seriously, like, that's so stupid. It's like, yeah, that's what he does. Yeah. That's what fit in this scene. It was funny.
Yeah, I thought that whole sequence was hysterical, but everyone keeps bringing that up. It's like, guys, I don't even know what to say.
I think
that's how I feel too. Like, I don't know what to say to
I think it's my intense hatred of emo kids that causes me to hate that scene because I think that they should be hunted for sport. And I immediately start rooting for J. Jonah Jameson.
The most
at that
depressed
point.
game.
Right.
Go ahead, man. You'll be doing me a favor.
All right, that's it. I'm done. I'm never going to talk about it again. Nobody bring it up to me. Sorry you didn't get it.
I think Raimi pulled it off. I think he managed to make these things that is crowded. I mean, it's crowded, but it flows and it works. I think a lot of people were confused by it, which is natural given the state of America.
Sure. But I wouldn't walk around bragging that, like, I didn't understand that Spider-Man movie. It's like, dude, that's not the kind of thing you want people to know, that you couldn't understand a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Now, I could see if you're talking about, like, a Ghost in the Shell or something, which really is really complicated, but really? Spider-Man 3? You didn't understand?
Ghost in the Shell is like watching Primer.
Yeah, exactly, like Primer. Like, if you don't understand Primer, I totally understand where you're coming from. Or Pi, sure.
Yeah.
I can see why you wouldn't have understood that. It's really complex, and even though I feel like I understood it, maybe
maybe you don't. Yeah, it'd be easy to have a conversation with what's that, Aronofsky and go like, oh wow, I didn't get that movie at all.
It's about what?
Well, okay, GoldenEye, a great James Bond movie, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And it came out, it did well, but they were like, yeah, but we talked to audiences, and they thought the plot was too complicated.
What?
I was like, really? GoldenEye you thought was too complicated? And so what we got 2 really shitty James Bond movies right after that were really dumbed down.
Yeah. The only good James Bond movies from Brosnan are the first one and the last one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't even watch the last one.
Die Another Day, a lot of people hate it, which is beyond me, because it's a love letter to all the James Bond films that have come before.
I really like that one a lot. Yeah, you're right. It's a total love letter. people got turned off by the invisible car.
Oh, right. I did
And
see
I'm like,
that
look,
one.
if
Yeah,
you let
I
like
saw that.
one, extreme gag or, whatever stunt throw you off a movie, maybe you shouldn't watch movies anymore.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be watching James Bond.
Exactly.
films. Really? A James Bond thing? You went, that's not really realistic. Where do you draw the line in James Bond films? What's plausible and what's not?
See, that's the thing, is that the novels actually were pretty realistic.
Oh, yeah.
as I
Yeah,
recall.
but almost
not
none of the
films.
movies
Yeah.
have anything to do with the books.
Yeah.
Really.
From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
It's almost a direct translation.
Yeah, I said almost none.
Right,
Dr.
right.
No
But-
is pretty close.
But it's like a rare exception where they could follow the novel exactly and it's still interesting. But most of them, like, not only are they realistic, but they're short.
I think
It'd
Wayne
be a
Newton
quick
needs
movie.
to be a supervillain in more films.
that would
I
be
just wanna-
awesome. I agree. More Vegas supervillains. Is Tom Jones still alive?
Oh,
anyone?
he
Tom
is.
Jones is a supervillain? Hell yeah.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Let's do that.
Yeah, no, because there's this inherent cheesiness. You know what? Who would be great as supervillain? Elton John. That's what I'm saying right now. Elton John is a supervillain.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can
Totally.
get
He would
behind
have made a
that.
great Dr. Octopus.
Okay,
He would have been after
granted.
Mary Jane then.
That's true. He would have been after Flash Thompson.
Oh, I thought you were after you gonna rape that guy? Well, go for it, dude. Hey, get an arm in there for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of hentai possibilities with Doc Ock. But moving on. So
okay.
who do you guys think would be the next Spider-Man villain? Who should they use in a episode 4?
Sinister Six?
Sinister Six, because then you could really do. I mean, they want just a Spider-Man action film with a minimum of the other storyline.
Sure.
That's one I could see where everyone would go, okay,
Okay.
actually, Sinister Six sounds really
Okay.
cool.
Okay, The Watchmen.
The Watchmen movie. Not the book, but the movie.
Right, the movie.
and see.
Wow, I don't think I could pick a director I think is more wrong for this project than Zack Snyder.
I can see that.
I mean, his movies. I mean, you talk about style over substance. I mean, that's all 300. 300 might as well have been an animated cartoon, if you ask me. So now he's adapting the most intellectual superhero graphic novel of all time.
300 should have been a commercial for Coppertone
Yeah, or the Navy. I mean, I'm sorry, the Marines.
or the YMCA.
Yeah, that's true.
Just say the Village People. For that.
I mean, well, you got to admit, it is the greatest gay porn ever.
Oh yeah, no, which that being
Well,
said,
Martin, talk to me afterwards. And
I don't have anything to compare it to. I don't
liar.
know about you guys,
you
but
liar.
no, I like 300 for what it is, and even when I've read the Frank Miller graphic
Sure.
novel of it, and I said, you know what, this is actually. It's kind of shallow too, just like the movie is, but it's real pretty.
Right.
And the movie's real pretty. It's
Right.
very well done for what it is, but Hollywood doesn't understand that Frank Miller and Alan Moore aren't the same person.
Right.
That they don't have the same fan base.
Right.
They couldn't be more different as
Yeah.
writers. Go ask the Wachowskis. They figured it out.
Like Alan
Yeah.
Moore actually respects women.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't call Miller a genius. I would, however, say that about Alan Moore.
True.
He's that crazy, fracked up Jesus that you're just like. He looks like a homeless guy.
He
Yeah,
looks
he
like
does.
Captain Caveman.
Yeah, he looks
Yes.
like Captain Caveman, and he's freaky.
And he's like a chaos magician like Grant Morrison or something like that. He like practices chaos magic. Or
Which
maybe
doesn't surprise me
Maybe
at all.
that's just publicity or whatever. I don't know.
That's
What-
just an agent saying, "Oh yeah, this will be great for you to say you practice chaos magic."
Right.
It makes me think of Mark Steven Johnson, who did Daredevil, and then later he gets the shot to do Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
And it's like, this guy, you know what? He might know what superheroes look like, but he doesn't know. He's going to make the kind of movie that's going to make people go like, "Oh yeah, I told you comics were for kids."
Right. I think they should have given like Robert Rodriguez Ghost Rider with
Yeah.
someone.
Oh, dude, my whole theory with Ghost Rider is that if Robert Rodriguez had directed it, he could have directed the exact same movie, and people would have gone like, "Oh, that he made such a fun movie. You could tell he had such a great time. He knew what he was doing. He did that on purpose."
The script is so
Yeah.
unbelievably bad.
I think they should do more superhero films in period. Like, I think Ghost Rider should have been a 70s dirty horror film.
I would love to see
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
go about the context of
That would have been
starting to do
cool.
movies. Like, I mean, like we talked about last week, The New Frontier. I mean, if you're going to do JLA people,
Yeah.
And I think New Frontier actually showed everyone that that's the way it can be done. Because I think, like, Fantastic Four should have been done like Down with Love.
Oh,
You know,
that's
it
totally,
should have been-
yeah. That was my idea for that. Like, look, you're going to do Fantastic Four, set it in the 60s when science was new. And they
Yeah.
believed all these things could be done.
yeah, I mean, they obviously you want to have a strong comic element to that. Like,
Yeah.
not comics, but comic funny.
Yeah.
To Fantastic Four, and they just didn't get it at all. Right.
No.
you can still have fun action and have that quirky, goofy, pastel-colored world, where everything was optimistic and everything, and you could still have just a fun action movie.
Yeah.
Watchmen's yet another script that Gilliam got screwed on.
And that is a period piece as well, and
Yeah.
which is I don't know how they're going to translate that, being that it's so inherent to the Red Scare of the early '80s.
Oh, yeah. Well, and all anybody can talk about is like, wow, have you seen how good it looks? That's all Snyder can talk about. Like, you got to see it. It looks great. It's like, dude, this is a book that's not about how good it looks.
Right.
Okay, so that's my take on Watchmen. It's kind of like, well, we'll see, but I have no faith he's going to pull it off correctly.
Yeah, it is far too rich to have the rock video guy.
Exactly.
Now, this is a weird question. Two people asked me about Kevin Smith's Zack and Miri make a porno, which I know next to nothing about.
Oh,
Who
neither
gives
do
a good
I.
goddamn?
Well-
That's what I know.
Hey, Smith, when are you going to make another good movie? Oh, wait, I don't think I care anymore.
Exactly. I mean, really, you know what? When he bounced back with Chasing Amy, I thought, man, this guy, he's got it now. He's going to go on to bigger and better things.
Yes.
And he's made one dud after the next. I'm
Clerks 2
completely
was
giving
an
up on it.
abomination, man. I am sorry.
Which now? Clerks
2.
I can't believe the amount of people I read saying, I love Clerks 2. There's actually a community on Spill that's, which do you think is better, Clerks or Clerks 2? And I was like, I did a spit take.
Here's what Clerks was. It's like, you've got these guys in high school, and they're kind of the screw-ups, and you're hanging out with them, or maybe you were on the outside, and you always wanted to hang out with them, and they were funny, they were losers, but they always made funny references and funny jokes. They were always getting into trouble. And then flash forward 15 years later, and you run into these guys at the pool hall or something, and they're still doing the same old shit with the same old jokes, and you're like, wow, these guys are losers.
There's a cycle to that. And there's the knowing the guys when you're, all young and they're losers and they're kind of funny. And then you bump into them later and it's kind of sad, but it makes you feel good that they're back there and you're ahead.
Like watching Cops.
But then you bump into them later again and they're just fucking annoying.
I like Kevin Smith's writing in comics.
Sure.
I think the stuff he's done in comics is great. I think that
Yeah.
anytime he does just hey, here's Kevin Smith talking about stuff, like his podcasts are funny as hell. They're really well done. They're really insightful. They're really enjoyable. But I don't know if the guy's got another script in him.
Yeah, he is one of those guys that, you'll see him talk and you'll like him.
Yeah.
He's got that kind of personality. I like this guy. I really want to support his next project.
Because he's one of us.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you see it, just like, sure did want to support it.
Yeah.
Wish it was any good.
I mean, I talk smack, but what have I written? Nothing. It's like maybe if I wrote a script, they'd be like, man, this is Clerks 3.
Here's the thing. He's one of those directors that was, cultivated by the Weinsteins, and they gave him too many responsibilities, too much leeway, like Robert Rodriguez. Kevin Smith, great writer, poor director. Robert Rodriguez, great director, poor writer.
Yeah.
I would challenge you on great, but go ahead for the sake
okay.
of argument.
Yeah, I think Robert Rodriguez, could do excellent directing job when he's given someone else's material.
How often has that happened?
Very infrequently. I mean, like Sin City.
Right. Oh, here's my thing with Rodriguez, and I've said it before. Cyrus, I know you're sick of hearing me say it.
No, let's
you're
hear it.
right.
The entire Rodriguez catalog is, I'm going to do an homage to a bad period in cinema.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to take these bad films I love, and I'm going to spend 11 times as much as they did to make a film just like that.
Wait, are we talking about Tarantino?
I'm talking about Rodriguez and every goddamn thing he's ever made.
Tarantino does it and makes it work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or at least he did. There was a time when he did.
Yeah. Death Proof, not so much. One of the books that Tarantino was talking about adapting, of course, he talks about doing, he's always thinking about doing this, whatever materializes. But 40 Lashes Less One is a very weird Western about marathon runners out in the Arizona desert. And it's a Western. Yeah, it's weird. Good book. But yeah, I can see where a lot of the stuff wouldn't really translate.
Now, I want to see more people do Joe Lansdale.
Exactly.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, there's a guy with real talent.
Joe Lansdale.
Anytime you read anything by him, you're like, wow, this would make a great movie, too.
He is not well. That guy is demented. I mean, have you read his Jonah Hex stuff?
Oh, yeah. It is brilliant.
God.
Well, they're making that. The guys from Crank are directing the Lansdale era, the supernatural Jonah
Really?
Hex stuff.
Really?
That's after Crank 2 and then I think there's one other project.
You got to get the important stuff out of the way.
And apparently they're really, really, really into getting this.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is because one of the arcs in the Lansdale Jonah Hex was, we're getting really obscure here.
Yeah,
for the
we're
listeners.
losing people now.
That's okay. Go ahead.
But they were making fun of the Winter Brothers.
Oh, that's right.
What?
Yeah, and there were
Johnny
lawsuits
Winter.
and everything. So
The guys who did that song Frankenstein.
yeah.
And Edgar Winter is a Scientologist.
Is he really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's over. That's
Yeah.
edited out then.
Exactly.
We-
I'm surprised Joe Lansdale's even alive anymore. I'm surprised the Thetans haven't swooped down from their spaceship.
Yeah, they don't have as much power as they used to. You know? It's because not enough people believe anymore. They didn't clap their hands
they
to
like?
save Tinker Xenu.
Wow. We have really gotten obscure.
We do that.
Meanwhile, the listeners are talking like, but what about that new movie with Jennifer Garner?
Is there a new movie with
Is there
Jennifer
one?
Garner?
I don't know. Isn't there always?
I don't
No,
know.
she
I
doesn't.
think
She doesn't make that many movies. Actually,
She's taking a break right now to take care of her kids, and I think that's why Ben Affleck hasn't been acting as much either. I mean,
And because no one wants to
we
see
should
him.
be grateful, sure, but
hey man, come on,
Gone Baby Gone?
The guy made Gone Baby Gone.
I
He's
know.
golden in my book
I'll
right
hand
now.
it to him right now. I want to see what you direct next, but I'm not exactly chomping at the bit to see your next starring in film. That's all.
He was good in Smoking Aces.
I like
for the little time he was on.
I like
Oh,
him
yeah,
when
yeah.
he's tongue in cheek.
Oh
when
yeah,
he tries to be.
He's got a
serious.
really good sense of humor.
Yeah, he does, and I do. He's one of those guys like Kevin Smith. And
Exactly.
he's friends with him. I like him when he's not taking himself serious.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. All right. Another question we got was, you guys, have you either one of you even seen Spaced?
Oh,
No.
I've seen some of the episodes on BBC America.
Well, they're doing an American remake of it.
Okay, and I can understand everybody who's like trepidatious about it and going like, this is going to suck. I would only submit to you the American version of The Office.
Yeah. I haven't seen Spaced, but I know everyone was skeptical about the translation of The Office, and that is a brilliant damn show.
It's the best sitcom that's ever been on TV.
And one would hope that they're going to take some lessons
Next
from
to Family
that.
Ties, I concur.
Next to Family Ties.
Next to
really.
Family Ties.
So Michael J. Fox was your favorite character on there then, the young Republican.
Yeah, but actually, yes, big time. I wanted to get a Richard Nixon poster in my bedroom, but to be honest, I was a little bit more Skippy Handelman.
It could work. Who knows? I mean, we like to get all, oh my God, end of the world when they're making a remake of something. But you know what?
Remakes are cover songs; they don't affect the original.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you care? It's like I remember I was the first to get all up in arms with the remake of Dawn of the Dead. I was like, I can't believe they're remaking this, and then I saw it, and it's like
wow, it kicks ass.
wow, this kicks all kinds of ass. And that's kind of what I think. That was the moment in time I went.
I'm waiting for a
this is really
remake.
stupid for me to get all out of shape.
Waiting
It's
for a
fun to
remake
do
of
it, but-
Yeah.
remake of Phantom Menace.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Except make it good. Like, give it to Steven Soderbergh. That's what he does. He takes mediocre films and, remakes them into good films.
That's true. I
Yes.
mean, I think about when Tim Burton was remaking The Planet of the Apes. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's a classic. You don't touch that. It's one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time. He makes it, and it's such a colossal piece of shit that there's no confusing his with the original.
bow your head.
You know you're never going to watch his Planet of the Apes
Exactly.
again. I mean, even if it was, hungover as hell on a Sunday afternoon on the couch and the family's out of town, you would still rather watch sports.
You would
than
use
that.
your tongue to crawl to the TV and change the channel.
Ladies, if you're listening, Cyrus actually is quite capable of pulling himself to the TV with
I
his
can
tongue.
do 50 tongue push-ups. Okay, maybe not 50, 35. But anyway, Max Payne film. Anybody? Yeah, I know you don't really play video games.
No. Now, as much as I don't play video games, Max Payne was my game.
Oh, okay.
And the thing is, can anybody say redundant?
Yes.
Max Payne is a
Yes.
video game based on a fake direct-to-DVD movie. Why would you go and make an actual movie of it?
Yeah, it's
that
like
makes no
making
goddamn
a movie
sense.
of Grand Theft Auto. You know, it's just these are all knockoffs of movies already.
Yeah.
It's like the
or
producers.
Halo.
The producers.
There was no point.
Hairspray.
Well, Hairspray was brilliant.
I really liked it, but still, it's my thing is that's what's happening now. It's all this. They need a new word like meta something.
True.
For what's going on. It's
called crap.
You know what? I could almost buy with Hairspray in as much as the Broadway production, the musical, was just so popular. yet it's only on Broadway. There's no way for the country to see it.
Yeah.
So, hey, we make a movie, and now everybody can see it. There's been a long tradition of doing that with very popular Broadway musicals.
Yes.
But this, it's like, guys,
So
come on.
how does Hairspray compare to
The
to
original
Max
John
Payne?
Waters film? Oh,
To
to Max
Max-
Payne.
to-
No, only
No,
in
I
the
mean-
sense that it's like it started as a movie, and then it turned into a musical, and then they made a movie of the musical
Oh,
of the movie.
okay. I
See what I'm
gotcha.
saying? It's like it's going
See,
like,
I always
really?
thought it was a musical first.
No,
I
no.
didn't know that.
No, it was a
Okay.
John Waters film.
Okay, I thought it was a musical with 2 film
No,
adaptations.
and the original film is
Okay.
great too. I really like both versions of Hairspray.
Sure.
I do, because they are different enough that it works.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't have an issue because of you could do anything. It's just like remakes. You could do it and do it right. If they turn Max Payne into a kick-ass movie, great. I just don't really see how they're going to do it. I mean, it makes me think of Hitman, which was
Right.
just so awful. Oh my God. And, Mark Wahlberg, more power to you, brother. I know you want to be an action hero and have your own franchise. I think you're a capable actor. You're definitely buff enough for this type of stuff.
It's Mark
but-
Wahlberg?
Yeah.
Didn't he already make this movie? Shooter?
Yeah, I know. Are you actually a Spawn the movie fan?
Are you kidding me?
No, because you like bad horror movies.
I
That's
know,
true.
but I have my limits.
Okay, bad horror movies. Jason, just so you know, Jason brought over to my house for my roommate to watch this bag of videotapes from like the 80s.
They're awesome.
Of some of the...
Shall I grab them and read the titles
Sure,
off?
sure.
They're
go ahead.
classic. Hang on.
Some of the most embarrassing, the movies that even when I was 12, dying for science fiction content in the video store, I'd look at it and go, nah.
Okay, here's one starring Sybil Danning, Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, Sybil Danning and Lou Ferrigno. That's
Sybil
all I got to
Danning.
hear.
The market
Sybil Danning
quality.
showing off her in Howling 2. The 7 Magnificent Gladiators with Lou Ferrigno giving a decidedly constipated look on the cover. Equalizer 2000. That's a gem
Who's
right
in
there.
that? Anyway, it looks like
It looks like the
who's the
Village People and the Dreadnought. Time Troopers.
Yeah, which I've heard has nothing to do with time or troopers. Yeah.
Escape 2000 starring Steve Railsback.
Now, that I heard
Helter
was the
Skelter,
best of
Steve
the stack.
Railsback.
Anything without a number in the title?
Alien Warrior. That one's for you, Leon. Alien Warrior.
Because
I don't.
he gets
I want the one with
bro.
Sybil Danning.
Eliminators. Bunch of cyborgs with treads for feet.
Now,
You know
see,
what?
That sounds like who are the guys who used to fight the X-Men?
Oh, the Reavers.
The Reavers. That sounds like the Reavers.
Yeah,
Which would have been cool if that had happened at that point. And
The
it was
Blade
that movie.
Master, a pure action fantasy starring Miles O'Keefe.
Oh, good Lord. Miles O'Keefe.
Miles O'Keefe as the Blade
Is
Master.
the Bo Derek Tarzan.
Leon wants to see it. That's right. After the Fall of New York, I've seen this one. It's pretty wretched. Michael Sopkiw. I don't know.
Who the
what
hell
his
is
name
that?
He's the guy who survives the
Snake
Fall of New York.
Plissken?
Yeah, pretty much. He's Snake Plissken, but it says he is the best action hero since Clint Eastwood.
Okay, but what I want to know here. Okay, you guys still got more. They're still coming.
There's one more. And this one is mostly notable because David Carradine is the star, and there's a woman with 4 breasts.
I've seen this one.
The Warrior and the Sorceress.
I've seen this.
Does that predate Total Recall?
Predates Total Recall.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
I know,
They
right?
were
You
way
thought-
ahead. Innovations in the number of breasts.
That's
You
like the-
thought that Paul Verhoeven was the guy who came up with, what if, all right, just stay with me here, what if there was a woman with 3 boobs, and they went, wow, you're a fucking genius, Verhoeven.
Well, it's funny, like, of all the things that are in Total Recall, that's the most famous thing about it.
Yes, it is.
I know, right? Isn't that sad?
See you at the party, Richter. Bring the girl with 3
Was that-
boobs.
I was just like that, screw you!
And then I love it when they fall out of the surface of Mars and they all look like Tex Avery.
Oh,
cartoons.
yeah. That's great. Right. Once they put the oxygen back in and all their features go back to
Like,
normal.
oh, everything's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
You love the bad movies. Give us the embarrassing one. What's the one that's so bad you can't believe you like it?
Okay, Friday the 13th, Part 4.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people who like it, but only because it's a Friday the 13th.
Corey Feldman.
It's
Yeah.
labels like people who wear Jordache jeans. Or
Is that the one where he shaves his own head to look like Jason?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, Jason, look over here. I'm you now.
Yeah, it didn't make a hell of a lot of
I always
sense.
thought the second one was the worst one. because
No,
of
the second one's the best one.
The sheer amount of fake scares drives me fucking up the wall.
Yeah, no, the second Friday
one.
the 13th was the
I
best
remember
one.
loving the third one just because it was in 3D.
The
I
third
like
one
the
is
third
really
and
bad.
I like the 7th one.
Wait,
The one with the girl with the psychic powers who fights back using her telekinetic powers. That was awesome.
punch you right in the mouth.
Oh, come on,
right
that
now.
was
No,
good.
it's horrible. Jason versus Carrie.
Yeah,
It's almost as bad as Part 8. Almost, but not quite.
I don't even know what
Part
was it?
8's Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh yeah, that was bad because he doesn't even show up in there.
I know he's like not even in Manhattan until like the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Even like Jason takes a sail.
Yeah, exactly.
That
He's
was
on that boat, and
Jason
then
on the Love Boat.
and then toxic waste. Ooh, spoiler! Toxic waste washes over him, and suddenly he's reverted back to Kid Jason. It's like,
Oh really?
toxic waste. The
don't even
rejuvenating
remember.
powers of toxic waste.
I love how back in the 80s, everything was all based on toxic waste and nuclear war.
Oh, I know.
Now everybody gets their, like in the 60s, everybody got their powers from radiation. In the 80s, it was
Yeah.
toxic waste. Now it's all genetic tampering.
Well, global warming. I think genetic tampering was like late 90s, early 2000s. Well, no, there's
No,
still,
all
there's still some
the
genetic-
superhero movies, it's all genetic
It's
tampering.
always been that way, though. It's always like the horror movies, superhero movies, any fantasy stuff.
It's what's the science of the day that we're scared of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look back at the old black and white, science fiction movies of the 50s, it was all like nuclear
Yeah,
radiation.
it was radiation, atomic radiation.
Exactly, every single
That's
time.
how Spider-Man was born, a spider that was affected by radiation. Hey, I always wondered, like, if he would go back to his class reunion, it'd be like, well, dude, you're the only one who didn't die from cancer. Because we had that open demonstration in front of all you kids. We're really sorry about that.
I always laugh because what's like when people do really stupid shit they saw in the movie. Like any vaguely intelligent person would never even think of doing.
Right.
And I'm always like, what a bunch of idiots. That being said, if there was like a local museum that had a breed of venomous radioactive spiders when I was a kid, I would have been the first to jump head first into that tank.
Yeah, when you were a dumb kid,
Well,
you,
yeah.
you probably jumped off the roof of your house with a bath towel around your neck too.
Well, no, because birds take off from the ground. I was well aware there's a separation of fantasy and stuff, but the thing is, the radiation thing, that was confusing enough that it
Right.
seemed like it was mildly plausible that maybe there's something to that. The whole
Sure.
mutating is, I mean, what little you understand of science at that point. But, there are guys who, like, you always hear the stories about people doing the stupid shit like that. These guys are guys who are in, like, late high school or college. Like, okay, that's just natural selection in action.
True.
The last girl I was hanging out with as a friend and trying to have sex with, but failing, did not like The Evil Dead 2. And
Who was this?
I can't say. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, but let's be honest.
Evil Dead 2's an acquired taste.
She had been born when that movie came out.
No, I know. That's true. Thank you so much for
Okay,
making
confession.
the liver spots pop out.
Sad confession of a horror fan. I did not until recently, like within the last 6 months, like Evil Dead 2.
What?
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Yeah.
Well, that explains all the
Wow.
terrible movies in your.
Yeah. I loved Evil Dead 1, loved Army of Darkness, did not like.
Okay,
Evil
okay,
Dead
there
2.
we go. There's one. Army of Darkness.
Oh, really?
I fucking hate Army of Darkness.
So you hate Army of
I
Darkness?
hate Army of Darkness.
Okay.
It's just an incredibly silly movie that doesn't have like Evil Dead 2. There's something smart and just kind of weird about the comedy in it.
Sure.
It's almost kind of slight. It's almost winking at you.
Evil Dead 2 is very much Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Right,
And
but-
then it's the black gallows humor.
Yes, but then so I was all excited when Army of Darkness came out. It was right around my birthday. Got a bunch of friends. Let's go see this movie. And I sat there watching it like I was watching the Banana Splits or the goddamn Croft Super Show.
Well, it's a
And
Harryhausen movie. It's a goofy. It's like the Three Stooges meet Harryhausen.
Yeah, well, that just does not appeal to me. The
See,
jokes are very obvious. And the thing is, you won't find a bigger Xena fan than me. But Army of Darkness, I've watched it since. I've watched it since with like a different sensibility, and still do not like the movie at all.
I didn't like it at first. I didn't like it from the moment I saw the ads because I knew it was Evil Dead 3, which a lot of people don't even know. There are so many fans of that movie who do not know that Army of Darkness is a sequel to Evil Dead. Believe it or not.
No. To watch the two, I wouldn't necessarily know that either.
Well, yeah, and I wanted Evil Dead 1, and when I was growing up, I thought, okay, Evil Dead 1, terrifying, although, I don't know, it's kind of corny now, but Evil Dead 1, terrifying, Evil Dead 2.
Perhaps a bit dated.
Yeah, the Three Stooges remake Evil Dead 1 is what Evil Dead 2 is, and then Army of Darkness goes off in a totally different direction. I just thought, oh, it just keeps getting worse and worse. It was like watching the House movies, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I saw Evil Dead 2 first, and I thought it was just brilliant because I saw exactly what they were going for. Yeah, there's the Three Stooges, the whole Warner Brothers Tex Avery thing. I mean, it's just like so much comic stuff mixed with just gigantic amount of gore.
Right.
And just really brilliant camera work. I mean, who had ever seen anything like the whole
Exactly.
Demon Through the Woods effect cam? I mean, it was laugh out loud funny at something you'd never seen before.
I watched it again recently and loved it.
Okay, fair enough. But the first one, I went back and watched the first one after that and said, okay, I see how this turned into 2, but to be honest, this officially makes Evil Dead 2 the best remake of all time in my book.
Okay.
Army of Darkness is the weakest of the 3, though, because they were like, we love the Three Stooges so much. I mean, it was almost like the Phantom Menace of the Evil Dead films.
Wow. I wouldn't have said that, but I totally agree with you.
But in the sense of where they were going with it, they like didn't understand what fans like about the series, except for the one-liners. Which the one thing about Army of Darkness, best one-liners of all
that
three
that
of the
film
films.
is what made Bruce Campbell the icon that he is today. Love it or hate it,
Yeah.
know. Which the Bruce Campbell train, I think, is officially over.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you did the Old Spice commercials. That's kind of cute, but
Well, he's got that movie, the Bruce, where he's playing himself, and there's an actual zombie outbreak.
yeah.
Which
I just
sounds like it could be
maybe it's
interesting.
just me, but I don't know. It seems like there's another geek icon who's got to be.
I don't know. Shatner at 50 could still get away with gone. I think Bruce
yeah.
Campbell in his 40s.
I don't know.
Yeah, but he was Captain Kirk, dude. You can't touch that.
Well, I agree with you that Captain Kirk is the very paragon of coolness. Even today, if he came back in his 70s as Kirk, I'd buy it.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to see George Milius direct more films that make me feel like I have hair on my chest,
Yeah?
even though Conan had no hair on his chest.
Yeah, that's true. I've always been confused about the masculinity thing with no hair on
He's
the chest.
George Milius. I mean, Red Dawn and
You're confused? Let me straighten it out for you. Gay.
No, but it's everywhere. It's still, it was going on then, it's going on now. They fucking wax their chests. Dudes, really? Since when are girls not into, like, hair on guys' chests? I mean...
You know what? Girls aren't now because
BC.
we've all been neutered and turned into metrosexuals.
it's a Fight Club message.
Yes.
Is that what a real man looks like?
You know what? I was gonna argue that like, well, the Spartans would do it because it's aerodynamic and it would help them fight better. But let's get real. The Spartans were like the gayest warriors in the world. And I ain't talking about the 300 movie.
No, we're talking about in real life.
Yeah, in real life, if
yeah.
you study the history of the Spartans, like the Spartans would just be men alone who would like the teachers, the teacher warriors would have sex with the young warriors.
Yeah.
And at some point, they knew they had to propagate the society. So they would have to have a period of getting reintegrated to women. So their girlfriends or wives have to show up with their hair cut down short like a boy. So the guy could slowly come back from loving men back into liking women again.
Really?
They
Oh,
were
yeah.
encouraged to sleep with each other because they thought it encouraged brotherhood and that whole, like, we're a team type spirit.
Can we talk about Spider-Man again?
He's being regarded in history as some of the toughest warriors ever. So
Yeah.
that being said, don't mess with a gay dude.
And I just wanted to note it that like when I talk about 300 being gay, it ain't me being homophobic.
Yeah, you're not insulting.
That's me being a historian.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, even if that had never happened, to point out that a bunch of heavily greased up dudes with shaved chests in this movie that has long, loving shots of their crotch and their nipples.
And their rippling muscles.
I'm not saying it's bad that it's a gay film.
No.
But it is a gay film.
Yes,
Regardless.
yes.
I mean, nobody's going to freak out when I say La Cage aux Folles. Oh, that's totally gay. It's like, what? You're homophobic. No, dude, it actually is.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, somebody asked me about, you remember the old show on MTV, The Max?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I do. It
I
was
want-
Sam Keith.
Oh,
Sam
Sam
Keith.
Keith.
Sam Keith was the creator of the Max. It was one of the first comic series to come out of Image Comics.
Yes, and it was a brilliant series.
Yes.
And in fact, if I remember correctly, the animation was almost exactly the comic book.
Yeah.
Not only was it exactly the comic book, but they actually did some different things with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very innovative.
I didn't get
was
it.
I was surprised.
I didn't get it. I mean, I've got.
You didn't get that channel, or you watched it and didn't understand it.
I didn't understand it. And I read the comics and I got the channel and I didn't understand it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Really?
I gave up on it too soon, though. I think.
You didn't get the comic or you didn't get the animated?
Well, I read like the first couple issues of the comic and watched the first couple issues of the cartoon, and I was like, the is and the whatever.
Well,
See,
he's
I
a-
gave
and
up
then
on the
honestly,
comic.
and then I went back to reading Youngblood. So
Okay, there we
Yeah.
go.
he's a homeless guy who's got giant spiked middle fingers. He's this giant Hulk-sized dude. Who
does
wears
he
this
like turn
purple
into
outfit.
this thing, or is
Well,
he?
he's kind of mildly retarded, and he lives in two worlds. He lives in the world where he lives in cardboard boxes and whatever.
And then another one where he's a blogger on a movie site. Is this about you?
No, that other thing earlier was about me. The gay movie thing, that was about me. He lives in another world where he's this great sort of force of the wild hero thing. And one of the crux of the story is which world is true. Are they both true?
Okay.
Is this all in his head, isn't it? I mean, but there is no denying in the story that he is one gigantic motherfucker with spikes coming out.
I did
of the middle
not
of his
give
hand.
this enough of a chance because it sounds really cool.
Yeah,
Actually,
you really
I've got
did.
the original issues too that I
the
haven't
thing
even
is,
read.
I can't fault you because it does start that way, and I remember feeling like that watching the first episode. But I just went ahead and hung with it because, like, hey, it's an animated cartoon about a superhero. I'll watch a couple of them.
Sure.
And by the third episode, I was really into it. I was like,
Okay.
oh, I can't wait for the next episode.
And this was MTV when they were still trying interesting.
Liquid
Yes.
TV.
Remember
yeah.
when the MTV's other shows were good?
Yeah.
The Max was really good, and it ended too soon, although they did actually give it an ending. But it's still never come out on DVD.
And you guys have me intrigued now. I mean, I remember I was buying all those first issues, of the Image stuff, and I wasn't even reading all of them.
Spectator.
I totally was.
Did I say spectator? I meant speculator.
Speculate. I know what you mean. I totally killed the industry. That was my fault.
Thank you.
I was like, holoform, glow in the dark fold out cover.
Yeah.
I'll have 3. And I hate to promote this, but go to a sci-fi convention or something, and you can find it on DVD.
Oh, yeah, there's always the bootleg guys who have
Yeah.
Maybe
tapes of everything.
Even meet an only mildly overweight girl who will be sexually interested in you.
That's a stretch, but
Maybe, yeah. They're kind of a rare commodity.
she's probably a cutter.
Yeah, you have sex with her, and the next day you look at the sheets, it got blood on them. You're like, what the hell? And she's carving your name into her arm. If I had a nickel, I'll tell you.
Is that's not normal?
This is something I know you guys will want to talk about is Robert Kirkman, which is a sadly unappreciated guy in comics.
I think he is dedicated to kicking me squaw in the nuts every time I read Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
He wants me to wince every time I turn the page. It's the George Romero universe. No bones about it. It really is. But, he'll get you somewhat comfortable in the status quo. But then, as of late, he has just been going all out.
I would say it's that George Romero universe, except not the least bit cheesy. As a matter of fact, it's almost like if you took the George Romero universe and mixed it with Lost. Because lately watching Lost, it reminds me of that more than
How so?
anything. Just in how, like, the character of Jack on Lost makes me think of Rick, this guy who's the leader of these people trying to get them through this trauma with no end in sight.
And all they do is fuck with him and question his shit.
Question his shit. He's starting to lose it, as anybody would, but he's held it together longer than anybody else could have possibly. Yeah. And at every turn, I mean, the thing with both, even with both situations, is it just at times just seems like there's no hope of a resolution.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, okay, there's no hope, but you still have to press on. You have families, you have all these different people with different personalities who are all very realistic. And somehow we have to keep continuing and try to make it through this hopeless situation.
About that book is
I've read it
constantly is, oh shit, I can't believe they just did that.
To be honest, the last one I read, it was so bleak, I wasn't sure I wanted to continue.
That was puppy dogs and rainbows. I swear to God, after reading the first issue, I called my mom. I put my head in my hands and I just went, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. I was seriously wincing on every page.
Oh my God.
And I watched Cannibal Holocaust a couple of times. I love The Exorcist, I'm reading this and I'm just going, no fucking way.
Wow.
I mean, it is brutal. And by the end of it, you're like, he didn't just do that. He did not just do that. Wow. It is just, I want to say apocalyptic, but that's almost.
What is an apocalypse?
Yeah,
comic,
exactly.
So,
It is the most bleak comic book I've ever read in my entire life, but it is so perfectly executed. A lot of his Marvel stuff has fallen flat for me.
Yeah.
Like the Marvel Zombies thing, that was done after the first series.
I think the Marvel Zombies thing was a great idea for one shot. Like one series, whatever.
I am shocked that that's continuing on.
I can't believe they keep doing it. And they're tying it into the regular universe.
Are they
it's
really?
Like, oh, yeah. No, dude, it all started in Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Oh, well, that's
right.
like regular
And that was
universe,
cool.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that
that was
well,
cool then.
I guess. It was cool when it happened as that little thing like, oh, here's this parallel universe.
That's what I
But
mean.
Then it turned into this whole other thing.
Well, now they've got Marvel Apes, which got announced
Oh,
at
I just saw that.
New York
yeah.
Comic Con. Yeah.
Marvel Apes.
Which
really,
someone suggested
really
as a
bizarre.
joke.
there are two projects I've always really felt would make the ultimate series on HBO. What they do, HBO does great, is take genre stuff and reinvent it and make it something special, make it character-driven, make it where you really care about these people, but make it shocking.
Sure.
Walking Dead is all about. I mean,
Oh,
that
man.
screams HBO series.
What I wouldn't
'cause
give for an HBO series of Walking
Well, you
Dead.
could do it low budget.
I see it more of a Showtime series myself.
Well, either, you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
A network that could support something
Sure.
like that and
Sure.
do it,
Okay.
give it justice. The other one, of course, is Preacher, which,
Oh,
God
yeah.
help me, I never want to get seen made into a movie. But
Yeah.
a miniseries or a regular television series on a channel that can do rated R
Yeah.
stuff.
Mark Steven Johnson, I heard last time.
Oh yeah, me
I
too.
know, which is like,
Yeah.
you better not.
Better not.
You know what's funny is how, I mean, you got Garth Ennis on Preacher and Steve Dillon on art, right? Steve Dillon. Have you seen Steve Dillon's work on Wolverine Origins?
Yeah, I was buying that for a while.
It's god awful. It's god
I love
awful.
Steve Dillon's artwork. I really do.
I think it's well suited for certain
the
things.
brief moments,
and Wolverine
like
is
he's
not
done
one
a
of
couple
them.
things with Ultimate X-Men, which overall has been a disappointing comic, but he did a few issues that
Kirkman.
were so good.
That's-
yeah, but
Oh,
Kirk-
Dylan's been drawing?
Yeah, he's
Ultimate
done
X-Men?
just a few issues here
Huh.
and there. He did a couple one-shots. And the stuff, like, there was one that dealt with, like, the other mutants. Like the guys who are, like, you know, have two heads coming out of one body.
Right.
Well, that was kind of a
The
Grant
ones
Morrison
that
idea.
Xavier turns away because I'm like, I have a beauty standard here.
Yeah, exactly.
At the Xavier Institute. We don't publicize it, but we're all filled up now at the Xavier Institute, but I want to give you a brochure for the Morlocks. They're always looking. And they'll take anybody.
They're really not picky.
Do you like darkness? Really? You got pale skin. Maybe you can.
Wow, you can channel the power of a star. That's great. But that's a serious overbite you got there, dude.
I know. Geez, can you do anything about that?
Have you seen our other students? Here's Jean Grey, Scott Summers, Bobby Drake. You don't quite fit in.
So maybe we should have held on to Rhett and A Man.
I will totally read a Rhett and A Man comic. That's like an Oxy ad on the back of New Warriors or something.
I know. It's only because they keep eating those Hostess fruit pies. The JLA movie? Dead
Dead as disco, huh?
Dead.
Yay.
I have said it.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I never for a second believed this movie would happen. If you look at it logically, Batman and Superman are still in play. Batman's movie is about to come out, and, finally there's some word that Superman is going to, have his second movie. You can't step on those two projects, which is what JLA totally would have been doing.
Yes.
Either it would have included Superman and Batman, which would have undercut their movies, or it wouldn't have included them, and it would have been all this talk about how they weren't there.
Which would have been stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, like, okay, we heard so much about how Samuel Jackson was going to do a cameo as Nick Fury in the Iron Man movie. Perfect, seamless, could have worked, would have been so cool, and yet they cut it. Now, if they can't make something as small as that happen,
All right, so there's no more JOA, right?
Good.
Which we're all grateful for because it was just
Yeah.
such bad casting. Both
Sure. Oh,
scripts they
terrible.
presented were just absolutely, really, what in the fuck are you guys thinking?
I'm only sad in that, like, it gave me something to blog about when there was nothing going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a baby JLA geniuses or something.
No,
That could
don't
be cool.
even suggest that. Don't even say that out loud. You might make it
Legion of the Super Kids.
Yeah, no, the last thing I want to see is a Smallville JLA.
Well, there's already Avenger Babies cartoon coming out. I don't
Are you
know if
Avenger
serious?
Babies?
Oh, you haven't seen the previews for it?
Really?
It's a future where the Avengers all get wiped out. They all get killed, but their children raise up with sort of mutated mixtures of their powers, and it's all about
Seriously?
these preteen, like power pack aged kids dressed up like the previous Avengers fighting stuff.
I wonder if this is based on those Fisher Price toys.
Because
No,
the
I-
regular
they-
Avengers, they
I
had
can't
to
remember what it's actually
deviate from that?
I don't know what the point is. Somebody showed this to me on Spill and said, "Isn't this cool?" And I was like, "No, it decidedly is uncool." There is no fail. Massive
Cool is over
fail.
here, and this is somewhere
Cyrus
in
has
another
deleted you from the
continent.
board.
But here's the funny thing: the JLA failure. Joel Silver is the producer of that. Has said, "Yeah, it's dead, but hey, guys, Wonder Woman, we're back on Wonder Woman."
There's another one that I think they should pick up that World War II idea of that script
Yes.
that was floating around.
If they want to go and do Wonder Woman, and what he's saying is we want to do is an origin story.
Make her a big Rosie the Riveter dyke and move on.
The big arm. We can do it as an ad for Vaseline. But no, you're right. That's the only circumstances in which I want to see the Wonder Woman movie. If it's done taking place like in the 50s, then I would be interested in seeing
I'm all for that.
But anything else, like, really? I mean, Lucy Lawless is too old to play the part at this
Which
point.
sucked because she would have been perfect.
She would have been perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, voiced the character in
Right.
New Frontier.
New Frontier. What did you guys think of New Frontier?
We talked about
covered that
last
time.
We
Okay.
covered it with
Yeah.
our jizz.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is now officially a bit sticky.
I can now officially never watch it again. I want to see a good Silent Hill movie.
What a great horror universe that is.
Yes.
I mean, fuck Resident Evil. Resident
Oh,
Evil
yeah.
is fun, right?
Yeah.
But, like, as a video game universe, it's just fun. It's only scary in the, boo, I scared you.
Exactly.
But Silent Hill
Silent
is
Hill gets
scary.
under your skin.
It's
Yeah.
scary the way Lovecraft was scary when you're like,
They owe a lot to
when you're
Lovecraft.
sitting and thinking about it, and you're like, the whole fear of the unknown thing.
Mhm.
Man, that's some messed up
I
stuff.
really thought the recipe for Silent Hill would have made for a great movie, but I think they overused the scary imagery that they had, and it's like, if everything is scary, nothing is scary.
Well, you
Kind of like the Amityville remake, how they're constantly bombarding you with imagery.
But that's the thing people don't get a lot about horror like this a lot of the time. Is that there's types of horror where you do play your hand, and there's types of horror where you don't. You just hide it. You just keep it in the background. You just give us glimpses because it doesn't work any other way.
Okay, give me an example of where it's worked where you do play your hand.
Well, you do play your hand when you're playing up for either camp value or a certain amount of humor.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't count, though.
You absolutely want to see as much as you see. Or if you have sort of like Darkman is a good example of one
Okay.
where it worked, because there's a horror superhero film. It has that whole, like, let's just show everything. Just crazy.
That's more of an action-adventure film. I mean, where do you show your hand when it's a scary film? Ever? Because I can't think of when you can't. With the exception of, the only one that I think that has done it successfully, and this is just off the top of my head, is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
But they didn't even show you.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're
There's
right.
almost the only gore scene in that whole movie is when he accidentally cuts his own leg with the chainsaw.
As I have repeatedly stated over the years, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is gorier than the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a lot of people don't realize that because it's all implied.
But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, one of the goriest things I ever didn't see, but made me feel like I was going to throw up, was the scene the girl's screaming and yelling, and he just so casually is picking her up as she's kicking and spitting and screaming.
Puts her on the
and
meat
hangs
hook.
her on a meat hook.
It's
But
probably my second favorite film of all time.
wow, okay.
Behind
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
behind Empire Strikes Back, I think so.
You're right. I don't think there is a great scary horror movie where they play their hand. And the problem is that all the ones where they try to do that, you're like, wow, I'm not scared if you show me every detail.
Well, I think Hitchcock was onto it when he said, don't show people what's in the bag. Threaten to show them what's in the bag.
Absolutely.
What's
Yeah.
in the box?
What's in the fucking box?
While I'm here, I'm going to indulge, as you promised in the earlier part of the podcast, horror films. What are your three favorites? And if they're different from the three scariest, what are your three scariest?
Wow. See, because that's like one of those things.
Or five.
I guess I never really separate them in my head.
Okay.
Because, I mean, like, my number one is also the scariest one, which is Jacob's Ladder.
Okay.
That
okay.
movie terrifies me.
That's one of my favorites. I like that a lot.
And I think it's the whole, like, the uncertain reality stuff freaks me out. Like, what is
Sure.
real stuff? Really?
Yeah, that's a very underappreciated film, I think.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't realize it's a horror film.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. And it really is. It's just such a well-done horror film that it gets skipped. Number two is Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
Which, once again, totally opposite end of the spectrum. I mean, that's almost more of a comedy than it is a horror.
Sure, yeah.
But that being said, it's you're never going to find it filed outside of the horror section.
Yeah, right.
So there's a brilliant little film. And number three, of course, is The Exorcist.
Okay.
Which is,
Yeah.
I understand why more people than not in the
Sell
whole
out,
world
yeah.
call it the number one horror film ever
Yeah,
made.
you're totally just copping out. You got to put that in there just for cool points, right?
It's true. They
Everybody
paid
puts
me-
that in there.
they
Everybody
paid me
puts that in
a lot
there.
of money. Well, what did you want me to say?
No, you're totally right. I completely agree with you on that.
I mean, Jaws would be number 4. Shit, what do you want?
Yeah, I don't know. Jaws is. I never put Jaws in there. Jaws is like an adventure movie, and I never rank it in the horror films, even though it does have some terribly scary moments. But
Yeah.
I just never. It never even occurs to me when I'm thinking of scary films
And
for
so
some
what
reason.
are yours? Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah. Well, my scariest and my favorites aren't necessarily the same, but
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I'll just do my favorites. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original Night of the Living Dead, and the original Halloween.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are old school. And the weird thing is, like, all three of those movies I enjoy, but I never really go, oh, man, I feel like rewatching them.
Oh, man, I rewatch them all the time. I'm like Christian Bale in American Psycho. I put Texas Chainsaw Massacre on while I do sit-ups
But
and work on my
only
abs.
in that way, are you?
But only in that way. Yeah.
You don't like Genesis, right?
I do like Huey Lewis. Love
was
Huey
it
Lewis.
Huey Lewis in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Genesis was in there
in
as
the
well.
book, it was Genesis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
So
It's Huey Lewis in the movie.
yeah,
Is that
I
what it is? Okay.
totally
funny.
brutalize prostitutes while I'm watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ah, well, that's fine as long as you're not listening to Huey Lewis. Like,
That's the power of love, man. All right, now, Mr. Not a big fan of horror movies.
we know there's
Leon.
some that you like.
Let's hear it.
Sure.
Your three favorites.
You guys want to separate favorites from scariest.
Because my three scariest aren't my three favorites. I think The Exorcist is scarier than those three that I listed, but it's not necessarily my favorite.
Because, on the list of favorites, I got to put Fade to Black is maybe my favorite.
I haven't
Wow.
seen that in forever.
My whole family, we would gather around the TV and watch that movie to the point where we could all quote it.
Really?
Yeah, just loved it.
I know it's a cult classic.
That's an obscure one.
For anyone who
That's
doesn't know,
cool.
it's a guy who's obsessed with movies
Uh-huh.
who goes around killing people who does he do it in like the themes of some of the movies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it starts out almost accidentally, where he's dressed
Yeah.
as Dracula talking to a prostitute who gets scared and runs away from him. He chases her and she falls through a picket fence, which happens to stab her in the neck. And
Which hasn't that happened to all of us?
Yeah.
At one time or another.
Yeah.
Sure, they don't.
At
yeah,
least
in
once
the
a
movie,
week.
They didn't actually have sex with a corpse afterwards in the movie. But
But it just goes from there. Like, it just keeps sort of happening without him planning it up until the end. And he's living in Hollywood. He meets a girl who's a Marilyn Monroe impersonator, and he has a huge crush on Marilyn Monroe. So you can see where that's going to go.
sure.
And he's like a young Roddy McDowell.
He is. It's Dennis Christopher,
Yeah,
who
he
was
looks
famous
just like
for
Roddy McDowell.
what was that movie? Breaking Away, the bicycle movies.
The
Yeah.
big Oscar type film.
Yeah. He's a total young American Roddy McDowell.
Yeah.
So you talk about horror movies, that's probably my favorite. Now, the three movies that have had genuinely scared me, only three movies that ever genuinely scared me, on the edge of my seat.
Brats.
No, scared like horror movie scared.
Yes.
Not like, oh God, we're all going to die in an apocalypse
Right.
scared.
It's the end is nigh.
The
Wearing a
Exorcist.
sandwich board on Congress. Sorry, go ahead.
The Exorcist is the number one of those things. Number two, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not the original, the remake.
Which I
Really?
agree.
Yes.
Very
I
underappreciated.
thought I loved it. I
yeah,
really did.
I was genuinely twisting in my seat, afraid. It wow,
messed with me
it really.
bad.
These are movies that really picked on my genuine hidden, true
That is a
fears.
brutal damn
getting
movie.
stuck in some small town at the
Right.
total mercy of the crazed rednecks there who know they have the complete
Because
control
that
over
totally
my fate.
happens. That totally happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, all the time.
Hey,
it's going to happen.
try being black.
As soon as this is over, it's going to happen.
And a surprise number 3 to come in, Cloverfield.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
Jesus,
Okay.
yeah.
Scared you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, because I think about when I was a kid, the things that would really scare me when I thought about him would be something huge like that. The idea of actually seeing Godzilla coming down the street, something so big and terrifying that there was really no running away from it.
Yeah.
Or
That is really fascinating.
Even there's times when when I'm full of anxiety, I have dreams of being trapped by a giant tidal wave. It's just that kind of overwhelming thing that there's no reasoning with, there's no running away from.
Right.
It's all over, and I'm
Wow.
one piece of everything. And watching Cloverfield, it really got to me.
I'm actually a big fan of the caught on tape stuff, like that scene in Signs where they first catch the glimpse of the alien from that news footage in South America.
Or Girls Gone Wild.
I am much more a fan of Girls Gone Wild than I am of airbrushed.
Or
Anyway.
the rest of Signs.
Yeah.
Or the rest of
Or the conceit of aliens that are allergic to water, but
There-
being down
there
to
were-
a planet that's 90% water.
There were a couple of plot holes.
We're not going to bring our weapons down here because what do they say? We're afraid they might get it and steal our technology, but you don't even bring a pointed stick or anything? Just show up naked?
I'm sorry, but I always say this about science. Like, look, it's one thing if your spaceship Like, it doesn't have the instrumentation to detect water. But with Earth, you can see water is on the planet from outer space.
It's not just on the planet.
Yeah, the whole planet is pretty much water.
I want to go in and dub like Anchorman over one of the aliens. I immediately regret this decision.
It's like as Bill Hicks said, maybe they're rednecks. Maybe that's my greatest fear is that not so much if aliens are coming here or not, but if they are, what if they're idiots?
They were just beating up all those trailer parks in Oklahoma, just inviting them up to watch the intergalactic NASCAR.
I know, it's true. They always appear in the middle of nowhere to rednecks. So once again, quoting Bill Hicks, he's like, don't you want to meet the president? He's like, no, we just had a long trip. We going to kick back and whittle some.
But no, I love that whole caught on tape where it's and it's been abused a lot lately, like with the Poughkeepsie tapes, which I hear is terrible.
Here is awful. One of the first films to get like almost screamed out of BNAT.
And the last horror film.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really bad.
It was abysmal,
The Last Broadcast, which I was not a fan of. I watched Blair
still
Witch
better than
recently.
Blair Witch.
No. I watched Blair Witch recently, and I think it's still really creepy.
But Blair Witch is the ripoff.
It is. It totally is. Blair Witch is a ripoff, but I think Blair Witch does it better. But there have been so many, and they're actually increasing because I guess people think that the Blair Witch moratorium is worn off. There's the whole caught on tape thing that has been ramping up lately. Paranormal Activity, I know, is one that's coming out that made a big splash at Sundance.
Of course, Wreck, which is the thing that everybody.
Oh, right,
which
really
you
told me
is
about that.
All that in a bag of chips. It really is excellent. It uses it. See, I think
Diary of the Dead.
What I like about it is that all right, when you've got a regular horror film, we're used to the way camera setups go. If something's weird or odd or
you watch enough of them, you know what's going on.
That's the thing is like there's no tricks left in that book almost.
Exactly.
But with this, it's a camera that could be swinging anywhere at any time. The guy's just carrying it, whatever. It's so much easier to get us when there's no preparation for it. Because we know all the old tricks.
It's almost like we're culturally ingrained and trained to pick up on these cues. I mean, every time there's a quote-unquote sudden car crash about to come along in a movie, I'll lean over and I'll say, okay, they're about to get in a car wreck. And sure enough, they get into a quote-unquote sudden car crash,
right.
And it's the same thing with horror movies. You always know what's about to happen. Who's the director of the Revenge trilogy? It's Korean.
The Old
Mr.
Boy
Vengeance?
series?
Old Boy, Chan-wook Park. I love it because he does something non-traditional, not a lot of cuts and stuff like that. He'll just sit there and here's the camera, here's the angle, whatever happens, happens, and there's stuff going on off camera and everything, and it actually really builds a lot of tension, without the rapid edits of Pulse or One Missed Call or
Tell me about being sick of the rapid edit thing. It's got its place, and it ain't in horror anymore.
Right. But I think we really need something new because we're all so used to all of these tropes.
It's like when you're watching a movie about war or soldiers, and one guy goes, here's a picture of my girl back home. It's like, oh, dude, you're so dead.
These days, they always have to establish why they don't have cell phone access. Well, we have no cell signal out here.
Yeah.
Or, well, we lost our cell phones.
Well, you have to, though.
You have
to
to
deal with stuff.
I know that I really don't know of anyone.
Well, the thing is, we live in such a technological society that it's really hard to plausibly have these scenarios happen to where people are completely cut off from anything.
That's true. We need a different brand of characters in horror is the biggest thing. I think the next thing, like, what about those guys who intentionally go and confront it? Who are like, oh, we know it's going to be fucked up and dangerous, like aliens, right? These are guys who thought they could handle it. They went into it knowing there's going to be horror.
There's
and
another
terrible
bug
things
hunt
happening, and they thought they could handle it, and then it was so far beyond their control. That's what works, not stupid fucking teenagers. I don't care about them.
That's true.
I don't care what movie it is. Dumb teenagers, even in the best examples of it, I'm like, wow, dumb teenagers getting killed. I'm not scared by that.
So recently we saw
I'm so
The
sick of
Ruins,
that.
and you had no sympathy for anybody in that movie. It's like, well, you stupid rich white kids thought you could just go out there and tame the Amazon jungle. Guess what?
I wanted to point out the one thing about that movie that really was so bad. My jaw hit the floor in shock that they thought no one was going to go, the villain in the movie are the vines,
right?
The plants, right? And they can move really fast whenever they want to. They're clearly super intelligent somehow.
Yeah,
they can mimic human voices and sounds.
And cell phones.
They feel like cell phones, whatever. I mean, one of the most retarded monsters ever. But that being said, above and beyond that, you can buy it. That's fine. So these teenagers, they're all broken and bruised and bloody, and they've already discovered that the plants are attracted to blood. They'll go inside you, and once they do that, you're fucked. It's over.
Yeah.
Right? What do?
We all know that from
They
Evil
go to
Dead.
sleep.
They go to sleep. They don't even. It's not one of those things like the guy assigned to watch accidentally passed out because he's so tired. No, they all just they say, well, we'll just sleep all in the same tent. It'll be fine.
Wow.
What? I said they're going, really?
Yeah, the idea that you could
Wow.
sleep even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You'd just have so much adrenaline. There's no way you could sleep.
Yeah.
knowing that was out there.
Exactly. I went, yeah, I just, I don't care. I mean, I'll give the movie this. It had some funny, well-done gore scenes, but that was it. That was all that movie had to offer.
That's disappointing because I heard the book was like really terrifying.
I
That's what
find
it
that
is.
really hard to believe.
Just the premise alone, once again.
It's so stupid.
Did anyone get raped by a tree?
No, see, the right there.
Just the
that-
audience.
Yeah,
Just the
exactly.
Not metaphorically, I mean literally.
Oh, no.
Anyway, that's it for another installment of League of Extremely Ordinary Gentlemen.
Jason, thank you for showing up for
Thank
us.
you. Had a blast.
Totally destroying your Monday evening in order to have a few beers with us. And please keep sending in your questions. Thanks again to the community for helping us out with some of your ideas. And we will see you in 2 weeks.